Hey, welcome everybody. So this is something new. I'm just trying to do some live content. I'm not sure if I'm going to get anybody tuning in or not. I'm also recording this, so I will be putting it up later uh, if nobody makes it. So what we are doing today is we are taking a look at Oathmark, and I am going to be creating a kingdom, at least one, maybe two. Now, in Oathmark, uh, one of the unique things about the system is, it's kind of designed uh, around kingdoms, which is kind of why the author says that in the game you can mix different races and different creatures in one army because they're being pulled from different parts of your kingdom, which I really like because if you really think about it, it's sort of like Lord of the Rings when Aragorn went and got the army of the dead because they owed allegiance to him. And in fantasy world, you will see that a lot. You will see where a kingdom or a king is able to pull in different forces to fight with him because they owe him or her some type of allegiance. And I have never really seen that implemented in a miniatures game. If you look at role playing games, I think what was it called? Battle System by was it by Dungeons and Dragons or TSR? The battle systems was kind of like that. You could mix different creatures and things into your armies. And there have been games that they have, like, if you do the army, there's monsters in there. Like, this is their monster. Like, this army would have a giant, or this army might have wyverns, or this army might have griffins. So that's not unheard of, but typically you don't get the races mixing like orcs and humans and dwarves fighting elves and orcs and goblins, for example. But that is what Oathmark is supposed to allow you to do. And it all works based on your kingdom and how you put your kingdom together. So I've seen videos on doing your armies, and I've done some videos on the place test and the combat. But I have not seen anybody do a video where they try to tackle this kingdom thing. Now, I have read through it. I'm not sure if I understand it exactly. So we're going to kind of work through this together. And hopefully by time we're through, we will have one, possibly two kingdoms. Now, what I have decided to do is I want to create a kingdom based on one of my own role-playing games called Journey to the Overland. And in Journey to the Overland, other than the Overland itself, which is not depicted on this map, there is a continent called the Continent of Men. And on this continent, there's this kingdom called Ryder. So I want to see if I can create this kingdom. Now, this kingdom you can see is mostly in grassland and plains. There's some hills here to kind of what would this would be their northeast. And then to the northwest, there's some forest. And then you've got maybe some more hills here. So we will see if we can incorporate that. And the thing about this game world is there are different races, not necessarily like humanoids, like orcs and stuff, although they are here. But they're located in a specific area here called Gorn. So this kingdom here, where is Gorn? Up here, kind of in the swamps, is where mostly all of your non-human races dwell. But I'm just going to try to create the kingdom of Ryder. And I have kind of a book here, a notebook, which kind of gives me some background info on it. So I know the first thing you want to do with your sheet is, oh, this light is not good, is you want to put your name of your kingdom, and you want to put the current ruler. So the name of this kingdom is Ryder. The current ruler is King Marshall Lauren. He's known as the Dark Sword. He's sort of like the Barack Obama of his kingdom. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. He's kind of like the dark-skinned people in his world do not hail from this kingdom, but he actually managed to become king of this kingdom. Uh, so now, after you do that, you have to indicate what kind of kingdom it's going to be. And so in the rules, it says in the innermost circle, region 1 contains 1 territory, right? And so in that territory, you have to indicate whether you're going to have a dwarf kingdom, human kingdom, elf, or goblin kingdom. So I already know this is going to be a human kingdom. So we are going to put that in the middle. I don't know why he didn't fill one of these out and put one in, put an example in the book. I think that would have really helped just to have seen a completed sheet, because I have not seen one of these sheets completed. So here we have human kingdom. So that's the first thing we're going to do. That's region 1, right in that inner circle. It contains 1 territory. The area between the second circle and the first is region 2. And kind of there's a funny thing he has the way he does this. So if you are trying to do this, just to help you guys out, I'm going to pencil in something here. And when I read this, I was actually kind of impressed with the way he does this. I don't know. I can't see if they've got any chat on here. How do you show this? Let's see. One second. I'm watching on my iPad, so I'm sorry if you are saying something and I cannot see it. Yeah, I don't know what that's saying. But anyway, so if you can see this, this is how the regions go. So here would be 4. And the way you can tell is there's 4 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Region 5, there's actually not a region 5, but I just did that. Then you have 3, which has 3, and 2 has 2. Now, so once you pick, and it's all going to depend based on what you pick for your middle kingdom. So if I picked a human kingdom, the next thing you're going to do is, as you create your kingdom, you choose 1 type of terrain for each of the territories within the first 4 regions. The terrain you choose gives you access to specific types of troops. So whatever you put in the middle is always going to be a city of that race. So if you have human kingdom, dwarf kingdom, it's going to be dwarf city, human city. But later on, you can have other cities of different races. So this would be human city, right? And what I'm going to do, they don't say to do this, but for a human city, you can have 1 human king, you can have, or prince, you can have 1 human general, and this is all in the book. I'll show it to you in a second. You can have 2 human captains. And I'm going to run out of space, but I'll deal with that in a minute. You can have 1 human champion. You can have 1 human spellcaster. And I looked at the spellcasting rules. I'll do a separate video on that. It looks kind of, I think it's kind of economical. I think I like it. You can do 2 human soldiers. Now that means 2 units of human soldiers. Wait, no, sorry. So you can have 1 human spellcaster who can be level 1 or 2. That's what the thing was. The human soldiers, human spearmen, human archers, human militia, there's technically no limit on those. Other than, I think the most you can have of any one type is 4. So like you can never have more than 4 units of any type. But theoretically, they're unlimited. But this is what it gives you access to. So right now, with what I have filled in, the only thing I have access to are human troops because I have a human city. But, and then this just kind of tells you your leadership structure. So now in the second circle, and this is kind of interesting. You can have 2 territories from your list. Meaning if you did humans, you can get 2 from the human list of these territories. And they're not the same. Every kingdom has different territories. Or 1 from any other list. So I'll repeat that. In the second circle, you can have 2 of your own territories, or you can have 1 territory from another list. And I'll see if I can read that. Once you choose your capital, consult the terrain list for each of the races, decide on the terrain type for each of your territories in region 2. Each terrain type lists the figures to which it gives kingdom access. And so then you would go down after that and you could list in what else you get once you put those in, but we haven't got there yet. The number in parentheses after the name refers to the rarity of the terrain type. It determines where you can place the terrain in your kingdom. So if it is a 2, then it would have to go in somebody's number 2 list. So it says you may select any terrain with a rarity of 2 or less from the terrain list that includes your capital city, or any terrain with a rarity of 1 from one of the other terrain lists. So in the human list, a 2 or less would be timber mills, plains, barrens, and mines. That's it. That's all you could put in here. 1 in anybody else's list, I can tell you right now, it's just going to be another city. So anything in your first circle, you can either have another city from another race, or you can have 2 of your own. And like right now, I don't really know what's best. Like I don't know if it's going to be more advantageous. So what I'm going to do is kind of make sure I get my own special territory so that I don't skip them later, or I don't have room for them. Because the way it goes, you will start going down. So in region 3, you will be able to get 3, 2, 1, right? In region 4, you'll be able to get 4, 3, or 3, 4, 2, 1. You'll see in a minute. So for my 2, I'm going to go with barrens. Okay, and I'm going to do the barrens. Let's do this in a different color. We're going to do some barrens. And I almost got to do plains, because I did show you guys the map. And if you just got here, I'm kind of building a kingdom based on this map, this kingdom called Rider, which is like from my role-playing system called Journey to the Overland. That's actually not Journey to the Overland. It's in the same world as Journey to the Overland. But anyway, I'm going to do barrens and plains, because you can see that kingdom is located on plains. Now, once I add that, these are human barrens, human plains, I can now add the new stuff I can build. And so in this example, if you add barrens, you can now build human rangers or human mounted rangers. You can get one of actually it doesn't say 1, it just says they're available. So again, you could get, I think it's up to 4. So I got now human rangers and human mounted rangers, which were not available just by adding barrens. By adding plains, I get human cavalry, which is why I wanted to do that. So I now can add that, and I get human heavy cavalry, which is really the one I meant, because heavy cavalry are very powerful in this game. So now we're going to go to circle 3. So you see how we're doing? We're building it out, and every time we go out, we can add new stuff. So in circle 3, he says, once you do that, you can go there, the terrain list. Next, choose the terrain for the 3 territories in region 3. This is much like choosing your terrain for region 2, except you have more choices for region 3, because you may now choose any terrain with a rarity of 3, meaning from your own list, or less from the terrain list that includes your capital city, meaning humans, or any terrain with a rarity of 2 from any other terrain list. So now I can open up my own list where I have stuff that is 3. So there's the monastery, there's the rough hills, and there's the sea caves. Okay, so pretty much the monastery gives you spellcasters, but I already have spellcasters, but it would unlock them up to level 4 or 5. The rough heels give you ogres and ogre line breakers, which I don't want any ogres in my armory. And the CKs gives you something called a Bugain, which I guess he had to name some of his stuff himself. Obviously, he didn't want to encroach on the monster manual. So I don't have the slightest idea what a Bugain is. But we could add a Bugain to our army, which I don't see that. All right, I'll get to that later. I'm not going to be adding any of that. So, but that isn't 3 in my list. Now I can go to any other list and I can get a 2 or a 1. Now, since this is a human kingdom, this, in my world, Kingdom of Riders, sort of like the prominent kingdom in the land, sort of like your Minas Tirith, and this king can command loyalty from other races. So I'm going to add a Dwarven city, a Dwarven capital city, because that is a 1. So I can do that. So once I put Dwarven city, and I can also add another city, something else. So this king can command loyalty from elves as well as dwarves to come fight beside him. So I'm going to add an elf city. Now you only get 3 of these, so you gotta kind of think, because when you get to the next circle, you're not going to be able to get other stuff because you only got 4 in there. And so the higher your circles, the more specialized stuff you unlock. So if you want kind of a lot of different creatures and things, then you might want to max out your own kingdom. If you want a real diverse army, then you're going to have to use some of these for other stuff. But so the dwarf city basically unlocks a dwarf king, which is odd. So I could have a king fighting with my king, a dwarf prince, dwarf generals, dwarf champions, and so forth. And I'm not going to write all them down because I can just refer to them. And the elf list does the same thing. Now, you don't really get anything special. Like this, I would get elf soldiers, spearmen, and archers. That's it. I wouldn't get elf rangers, elf hunt masters, elf cavalry. You couldn't bring any of that. Same thing with the dwarves in this region, because that is all the number 1 city unlocks. But now, because I have another 3 slot left, I can get something in number 2 in somebody else's list. It doesn't have to be the dwarves or the elves. So if I go, for example, to the goblin and orc, a 2 would get me a goblin ruined village, which I could get some goblin catapults. It would get me some dark hills, which would give me wolf riders. It would get me a slave camp. My king don't do slaves. All right, so, or else I can go back to the dwarf list, and the 2 would get me some forges, mountain passes, lumber yard. So now you can play this thematically, right? And just kind of, like I said, oh, well, my king wouldn't have a slave in his kingdom. Or you can meta, right? So for right now, for a second, I'm going to meta. So with this 3 slot, I can unlock a 2 on any list. And I'm going to see if I can get the dwarf heavy infantry, or what they call the line breakers. I can. So if I put dwarven forges on here, I can get dwarven line breakers, which the line breakers are kind of your premier units. So this is called a dwarf forges, right? And that is it. I have filled up all of these circles going out to 3, and now with 4, because I don't think you do 5. It says, finally choose the terrain types for the 4 territories in Region 4. You may choose any of the terrain types listed on any terrain list for these territories with no limitations. So I'm going to reread that. It says, choose the terrain types for the 4 territories in Region 4. You may choose any other terrain types listed on any terrain list for these territories with no limitations. So that means you're not limited by 3, 2, 4. Matter of fact, there aren't even 4s in here. So you can basically get anything below a 4, which is anything in the list. But you don't do 5. So I don't know what happens with, oh, I think I know what happens with 5. So 5 is going to be where you get invaded. So when you play the games, I told you in one of my videos, you have to do a scenario, but you also do, I think it's called a mission or something. And in the missions, it's going to tell you where you're going to be attacking in these 5s. So it will say an open area, and these are what it's referring to. These will be open areas for number 5. So for 4, I can pretty much get anything. So I've got Dwarf Heavy Cavalry now. I could get, and they've got, a lot of these will start to unlock monsters. Like the humans, you can get a giant if you put some Rocky Mountains in here. The elves, you can get giant spiders or wolvers. You can get something called a lindworm. The unaligned terrain list. So you can get a dragon. So I can put something from the unaligned terrain list here, and you can put a dragon in your army. Okay? So you only got 4 slots. So, and I don't know what some of this stuff, I don't know. I mean, I understand why he had to use these weird names, but it makes it hard for me to make up my mind. Like he has something called a Surma, or bulky 6-legged reptiles. Okay, so that's sort of like what? A basilisk? Or a, what's the other thing called? Basilisk? Not basilisk, there's another one. It's like the real scary one in D&D. Not basilisk. I can't think of the name of it, but that's kind of odd. He says 6-legged reptiles about the size of a bull. They are usually found in deep dark caverns. Let's see, they got 6 hit points, command defense die of 12, fight value of 6. They cost 240 points for a Surma. And I could get a Surma. Actually, you could get 2 Surmas if you put caverns. If you put caverns in your list. But you got to get a dragon, right? You never know when you're going to. I would love to see a king call a dragon. So I am going to put in here high fails. So that's what he calls the area where dragons dwell, in the high fails. And these are generic, meaning it's not dwarf high fails or elf high fails. It's just high fails. Then he's got something called a Bodok. Which I don't know what a Bodok is. Are these in alphabetical? A Bodok. Not much can be said in certainty about Bodoks. They are fey creatures that exist simultaneously in this world and another. They are tied to a specific territories in which they wield considerable powers. Generally, Bodoks appear as old men, but they can take on other forms if they wish. Bodoks tend to fight only when they feel that their land is threatened. Bodoks can draw their spells from any spell. These are like real high, powerful spellcasters. They only have 3 hit points. 400 points! Holy cow. It costs 400 points to bring them. I don't think I'm going to pay that. So, alright, so I've got some kind of creature. So let's see what other troops I can put in that number 4 slot. So for the elf list, I can get the elf mounted rangers and elf cavalry if I do elf grasslands, which I think I'm going to do that. Because I already got the dwarfs where I can get their line breakers. So then if I can get the elf, does this give me the elf heavy cavalry? It says elf mounted ranger and elf cavalry, which I'm assuming would include the heavy cavalry because it's not distinguished. So I'm going to get elf grasslands. So I have 2 more. I don't really know if I should put some orcs. Maybe I should put like a little tribe of goblins or orcs that have to come to the call if we call them to battle. Maybe they were defeated, and if the king calls them to battle, they have to send him some kind of units. So kind of a generic, I could do a generic goblin city, or which would just get you basically goblin soldiers, goblin leaders. Or I could do some Dark Hills, which would get you Goblin Wolf Riders and Goblin Wolf Rider Scouts that would have to fight for this king. Looks like the orcs are in the same list as the goblins. So there's not a separate list for orcs and goblins. So that's funny. If you want to do a... Actually, you cannot do a orc kingdom. You can do a goblin city, which will unlock an orc. Oh no, a goblin city or orc city. So they're on the one list. So if you do them, I don't know if that's gonna show up, but they're right here. So you get number one. You do one of either or, but it's the same terrain list. So I don't know. Maybe I'll just do a little goblin city, just to make them kind of subservient to this king. So that just unlocks your basic goblin stuff. Then I have one more slot. And in that slot, I'm going to go back to my human list because I don't want to leave out any of my good human stuff. So a high-level spellcaster, at some point you got to take something like either the monastery for the humans, the hermitage for the dwarfs, the towers for the elves, or the dungeons for the goblins and orcs. All of those unlock your higher level spellcasters. So I'm just going to go with the monastery. That's thematic, a human monastery in this territory. Okay, so basically that would be a completed kingdom. That's kind of what it looks like. Now, you can go down later and list everything it unlocks, or else you can just kind of refer to the book as you're building up your army. I mean, it was actually pretty easy. It was easier than I thought it would be. So I think that I'm going to end it there. Yeah, this is that says unit limit. You can have 4 units of human soldiers, 2 units of human spearmen, but you cannot have 5 units of human soldiers. So the most of any type of unit you can have is 4. So I think the next video I'm going to do, I am going to take a look at the campaign system. So this should help you get your army done. Remember, 5 is not going to get filled out. I am going to do a rival kingdom on my own. I'm going to sit up and do another kingdom to oppose this one. And some of this might get changed. Like, you know, if you start playing and you don't like it, you know, you could always throw it out and do a different kingdom. But this is what it kind of looks like. This is what he's referring to. So, and there, I have not seen anywhere where you can see one of these. So I thought that might be kind of helpful to everybody. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Take care. I think I'm recording this simultaneously, so I will put this up when I'm done. All right, God bless. If I can get out of here, I don't even know how you end this.